Welcome. This is the Global Summit House podcast. Catch power interviews and discussions with influential, inspiring, and powerful people. Explore what's possible by tuning into this podcast with our all-new The Writers Project episodes, featuring one of the world's most inspired thinkers and writers. Visit our website at www.globalsummithouse.com.
Hello, everyone out there in podcast world and cyber world. I thank you and I welcome you to another wonderful recording episode here with a wonderful author. Describe as exciting times as he has written to be living in, and the books that he has written will describe just how and why you want to be aware of what's going on in our world, what in the world is going to happen. And Eschatology Unlimited. We have today with us Dennis Mather. How's it going today, Dennis?
Pretty good.
Great. So, Dennis, you're a graduate of Faith Baptist Bible College and Seminary, and you're residing in Iowa. Tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words.
Well, I'm 78 years old, believe it or not, and I decided to put everything I had on the hard drive of my computer into a book. And so that was the first book, called Mather's Theological Compendium. And then I wrote this one to kind of apply the eschatological part of it. And so it's kind of one of my favorite books that I have written, because it starts about 2 seconds after the rapture, and then it goes on from there. So it's apologetic.
Amazing. Very quite fascinating.
Apocalyptic, that's what I mean.
Yes. Very fascinating. And
what was that?
I said very fascinating. I very much applaud you for just your wonderful work here. So why did you decide that, that this was the time to write and release these books?
Well, I've always been interested in prophecy, which is actually eschatology. Eschatol is a Greek word that means last things. And so I've just always been interested in it. And actually, the Lord gave me the gift of writing theology books. So I just thought it was time. And now especially, we have a pandemic going on, yes, and people would be interested in reading it.
I can agree with you more. There is definitely ample time laying around here, and I think a lot of people would like to understand these times, and I believe the inspiration from where you're writing from tells a lot about that. So speaking of just inspiration, when you write, are you writing from just the inspiration of God, or is there more or less of just situation, or just your own studies from college that that you just decided to just hone in on more specifically?
Well, it's in my heart and it just comes out. But I did learn these things in a Bible study in my hometown. And then I went to Bible college and they were amalgamated together. And but now it's just all makes sense. I took a course at Faith Baptist called Daniel and Revelation. And the two books parallel each other. And it says in the last chapter of Daniel that there's going to be a time coming, unparalleled, as never before, as bad as it's ever been. And that interests me, and I think people should be warned. Like if there is a caterpillar coming to an anthill, and you want to warn all these ants, you become an ant and go down there, and you tell them, well, I'm not Jesus Christ, so that's not what I did, what I'm doing. But I am wanting to warn people, of the doom that's coming.
Yes, indeed. Uh, is this kind of in the way, and I'm just curious to know this, is this kind of way of your way is also being inspired to also say that this is what the world is missing most to be able to understand the office in which God, serves us?
Oh, yeah, they need to understand it because the churches aren't teaching that. In fact, they don't even want to teach Pauline doctrines, which is the Apostle Paul's doctrines. They just want to stay back in the Gospels. And so they're not going to get any kind of eschatology to give to others.
Yeah, you're definitely not going to get this on a sermon on Sundays, and especially when you flip on televisions, you're not really seeing this much. So, what should Christians be doing in times like this? I definitely would suggest reading your book. Is there, maybe a blueprint in which the book kind of gives Christians to also help?
Well, I recommend the compendium because you get your money's worth. These other two books were printed out, and they've been put in small print since then. I had some printed up, and they're real thin, and you don't get your money's worth because the original publisher had them way overpriced. But I would suggest that that you get the original book, and you'll see that all this theology fits together, and we have had a silent reformation, as you'll see in that book. In the chapters 2 and 3 of Revelation, it speaks of 7 churches. And the one that is next to the last, it is a Sardis era. And it says, you have escaped. And that was the first Reformation, Luther's Reformation. But now, churches are taking their denomination off their sign in front of their church. This is the new era now. It's called the Philadelphia era.
Yes.
And these churches are preaching. The church I go to does preach eschatology, and the Lord is coming soon. And so I would recommend people go to a praise and worship church and a church that preaches the whole gospel and that eschatology can be learned.
This is profound, and I thank you, for offering that to definitely avid Christian readers out there and those who just want to, dig in more and learn. Speaking of which, since you have written and released your books, we know that we get several warnings in society, about the Lord's return. Has there been any new warnings that have surfaced in society that validates your work?
What kind of to be validating it? I didn't catch that word.
Any new warnings that maybe you didn't get a chance to write or mention in your books that maybe that are kind of have surfaced in society since the release of your book?
Oh, some indications that we're in the last days?
Yes.
Is that what there's that one warning. Did you say the word warning? Is there any more warnings?
Yes. Any indications here?
I didn't quite catch that one word.
Yes, that's
okay.
correct.
Well, this pandemic is one of them, because it says in Revelation there will be one of the 4 horsemen is pandemics, the pale horse. In chapter 6, there are 4 horses. The first one's the Antichrist. He has a sword, and he's riding on a white horse. And then there's the red horse, which is the war. And there's the pale horse, which is pandemics. And then the last one's the black horse, which is famine and just downright bankruptcy, all over the place. That's the 4 horsemen of Revelation.
Yeah, we definitely should take heed to some of these warnings, and I'm glad that you really kind of gave us an awareness of these things if we aren't aware already. What are people saying about some of your work or some of your books?
Well, I haven't been pushing them, and nobody likes them. Of course, nobody wants to hear that.
Yes.
That we're almost to the end of time, and so I'm not even popular with the church, any church. Of course, I'm not a bad-looking guy, so I don't know why.
Right.
It's just that they don't want to hear it,
Right. Yeah, I know there's definitely a whole opposite end of the gospel people rather like focus on, and but this is one that people are very fearful of, but there's hope in the story, and I think you touch on that.
Yeah, people would rather focus on the social gospel, which is feeding everybody.
Yes.
Of course, that's going to be necessary, but that's going to be the Antichrist's main takeover. I can feed you, and I can give you what you need here.
Yeah. Is there anything else that maybe you haven't shared in this time here on the Arrington Day, that maybe you would like to share right now?
Well, I'm not out to sell books. I'm just out to get the word out. And that was my main focus. When people ask me, say, why'd you write these books? I just want to get the message out there.
Excellent. I love that. And that really comes from a sincere place. It tells us that you are looking to be a servant and not to be served. So with that being said, I know you say you're not really looking to sell books, but should we decide that we want to go and just read some of your work, where can we find it?
What was that last question? I didn't quite hear it.
Should we decide that we want to read your work, where can we find your work?
And on Amazon, they're all on there. And they're also on thrift books.
Excellent.
And I also have a website called DennisMatherBooks.com. But when I get on there, I can't go to Amazon. There's a link to go there to order books. But other people say, okay, it works for us. So I don't know what the deal is there. But it's a very simple website where the books go across on a slideshow, and then you can click on them and find out about them.
Oh, very outstanding. Very good. But thank you so much today, Dennis, for all that you're doing to help out here and to also just contribute to humanity and to give those warnings out. I'm quite sure your books are, a great enlightenment tool and a good way for people to prepare themselves for just to, what we know is as the unknown. We don't know when it's going to happen, but we know that, there's been a story that has been said that it will happen.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'm glad you feel that way, because a lot of people don't. They just say, oh, well, you're kind of a kook if you think the world's going to come to an end. But it won't completely come to an end, but how we know it right now, where we're free to, do and think like we want. Someday that's going to be true. So I'm glad you feel that way too, that it is imminent that we get the word out.
Yes. Well, thank you again, Dennis. Do hold the line here, and we definitely talk to you on the side here. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you do check out the books. They are available on Amazon, or as Dennis said, his website is DennisMathersBooks.com. Pick that link up. I'm sure it will be in the episode description. This has been another great recording. You can play this back over and over again, and then get in touch with us, afterwards, and share it with someone you don't know, and enjoy the great blessings from just knowing that there's someone out there working on your behalf, like Dennis. So until next time, many blessings, peace, and lots of love. I'm Marcus, your host.
You've reached the end of another episode of the Global Summit House podcast. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio, iTunes, or Google Play. Connect with us at globalsummithouse.com. See you on the next episode.